Okay, thank you very much. So anyway, today I want to give you an update about our efforts to implement a national routine evaluation for milk fatty compositions. As maybe some of you know, we started quite early to collect milk fat compositions, fatty acids compositions, first on experimental farms, but nowadays we are doing it on nearly all cows under milk recording. It means that in April 2010, when I last time presented results, we were around 800,000 records. The context of this report will be to update you on the status of data collection, also about the model and the covariances we are using for these computations, how we should express, how we want to express results, and also we go a little bit through the results, but not necessarily numerically, because the first evaluations are internal, so we will not distribute it largely, but at least that you see a little bit what type of bulls we are evaluating and how many daughters they have at home. Then, obviously, I will speak about genomics and also how we want to use maize results. Anyway, even if maize doesn't exist for fatty acids, as you know. And then also we are thinking about other traits, and that's on the last point. Now, with the data collection, a reminder to everybody that fatty acids here are predicted out of mere spectral data. This is using updated equations. The last ones were developed together with Robust Milk project, and nowadays we are improving even our equations through bilateral agreements. So these equations are getting better and better and better. For the moment, we are going in the direction of 2,200,000 test days, and we are adding more or less 55,000 a month. So, as you have already heard, research is not very new on this in our case. We have started working on it for a long time. We have also shown, and others have had the same results, that genetic variation exists, that heritability are high to medium to high, apologize, and that anyway, it's already quite clear that there's interest to select for these traits. However, the traits is not necessarily easy traits because obviously it's a young new trait with less data. So we want to make good use of everything that's available. For example, we have repeated records. The model has to be adapted. Obviously, it is a longitudinal trait across lactation because we have it at every test day. So we use a random regression model. And we have this fact that it is correlated to some traditional traits, what can be useful because we can use historical test day data, especially to supplement on the dam side, where dams have never had records for fatty acids, and also fatty acids are highly correlated. Here I present for 2 fatty acids, but technically we can do it for whatever fatty acids we can predict for MIR, and we can predict, I think it's around 20 for the moment. It's going up all the time. Okay, anyway, the point is about now for the modeling to come up with say, a good model, and our idea was to use our normal random regression test day model, multi-lactation, multi-trait test day model, adapted for 2 additional traits. The 2 additional traits were based on an idea that most likely for milk pricing and also for health relations, saturated fatty acid content and monounsaturated fatty acid content are good candidates for improvement, for being improved. So the variances we used were basically here, variances and the correlations we use, heritability we use on this slide. As you see, the results are a little bit different when I presented before. We had to bend some covariances because for technical reasons, for the moment, we want to use still the same covariances as for the milk, fat, and protein normal test day model. The reason is that we're thinking about using the maize breeding values coming back, and then we need basically this as is a requirement by the system. But this has maybe we worked and we improved. Now, on the pressing results issue, it's really not easy because how should we express something where our economic ideas about economic value is not very clear? But according to my understanding, a lot of countries have a lot of interest, and so we have come up with an intermediate, say, an preliminary solution. Our preliminary solution is to use saturated fatty acids and monounsaturated, as I already told you. And in order to express this result, we came up with the idea of developing a restricted selection index as being the reported rate, basically, where the A values are in standardized terms simply -1 for SFA and +1 for MUFA, so basically against saturated and for monounsaturated, restricting changes in milk and fat yields to 0. And then we computed some B values, obviously. When this index we call here nutritional quality index, and it's basically the standardized coefficients, index coefficients, you see them here. And basically what's happening is that the correlations are as expected, highly negative for SFA, moderately positive for MUFA. I have to say that both are correlated already, so it has to somewhat is getting out the correlation, and obviously milk and fat 0. Heritability here is of this index is quite high, 0.54. I have to stress it, so it's really something we can select on. Now the data for our computations. This data is increasing, as I told you, rapidly, but it's basically our data using for the routine production model. The routine production model doesn't contain fat and protein percentage, but I give it here to give you an idea how the saturated fatty acids and monounsaturated fatty acids are, say, in the dimension compared to fat. And as you see, the results are more or less what everybody would expect. Okay. Now we got obviously some winning values for SFA and MUFA, but also for NQI. And basically here gives the results. The genetic race was pushed to cows with fatty acid records born in 2005. We have records really starting in 2007, so that's to give you an idea. So most of these cows had the possibility to have records as heifers. And basically what's happening is interesting on the reliability side, because you see that basically we come up with quite high reliabilities, what is obviously expected given the heritabilities. Okay, now a little bit an idea how this distribution of this index, well, this distribution is expected. It's reported here as standardized, but it's by genetic standard deviations what explains that we don't get the whole range we might expect. What is most interesting maybe for you is also to see a little bit how it happens, what happens on the daughter side. These bulls have obviously daughters at home, because I only give here results for the bulls. We have at least one daughter with a fatty acid record. We have also quite reliable proofs for other bulls, but this is only based on correlated data. So to a certain extent, maybe it's not interesting here to report it. And when you see this, we have quite a large group of bulls that have not too much data, but we have also a not too small group of bulls having over 200 daughters. And if simply looking at the bull files, I found some names that were sounding familiar for me, and I give them to you here. I would say it's nearly random. So what I see is that quite a lot of internationally well-known bulls from different countries are evaluated at home, and some of the bulls going up to 1,600 and so on daughters, what is, I think, quite impressive. Okay. Now the point is that we are obviously adding records all the time, and if we're using international sires, and in Belgium, nearly all internationally important sires are used, so they will get proofs, and these proofs are obviously a possibility maybe for some foreign IE centers to have some information about fatty acid composition, genetic fatty acid composition for their bulls. We also have now for the moment quite an important research project going on how to integrate maize breeding values in. Why maize breeding values? Well, you see we have milk, fat, and protein in the system. And the relationship between milk, fat, and protein is quite highly linked to the way milk fat is saturated or not saturated. So it has a lot of merit to use information from outside. How to do it? Well, our plan is, and it will be developed more in detail by a colleague, Jeremy van Plas, PhD student, to be very clear, and he's really doing a very good job, and he had already a paper in Journal of Dairy Science about the first ideas. You can look it up if you like. And the point is that what we are doing is we will define additional maize traits in our system where we have no real data, but using the method by Jeremy, we'll integrate in the information for this trait coming from maize, and avoiding obviously double counting for own bulls having also contributed to maize. Obviously, this is also an idea about going to genomic predictions. Before I go to genomic prediction, our plans on this, maybe we can a little bit speak about collaboration. As you see, it's important. On the phenotypes, as somebody told us yesterday, I think it was Jenny, the king of the genomic world. No, well, this king, we could maybe share him because for a lot of novel traits, there are not too many data is around. So I think, for example, for data here for fatty acids, Luxembourg has around 2 million records or 2. That's one of the examples I know. I heard also now in Italy they started, other countries are starting. So anyway, what I think it would be interesting if to think about pooling, maybe doing things together, maybe indirectly helping each other, maybe maize for this in the future, who knows, but that's not obviously for one country we'll do it. And also I think in general for this, all what we are doing with this data, we don't forget that if we have this mere data, we can do other novel traits, and these novel traits can always be a good point of partners to join forces and do things together. Okay, obviously now comes the genotype after the phenotypes. Some of the genotypes, the optimum everybody knows would be to combine things. And however, most likely will not go to this point. But still I think that everybody would benefit of going to joining forces on novel traits on the phenotypic and on the genomic side. Until now, to my knowledge, in the genetic genomic evaluation level for fatty acids, there's not yet an international collaboration ongoing. Anyway, I am open to our discussions if somebody wants to join us and discuss. So for the next part of my talk, I will only use, say, the local developments, not speaking too much about what maybe is possible together. So, and our plans is basically to go in the direction of a single-step method. No, we are not going, we are doing it. We are working on this really, and so it will be done in, I hope next year at Interbull I can present results. Obviously, that the idea why to use single step is because it is quite straightforward without a random regression, as we have seen today from Finland, to use a single step. And also, the integration method of maize EBVs works obviously also in a single step without any problems. And that's, if I remember well, I think Jeremy has a presentation at ADSA meeting this year. Yes, he has. And then the next point is that obviously that we can also, and that's another point of single step, we can also benefit properly from the maize EBVs of ungenotyped ancestors. Again, this may be an opportunity for owners of foreign animals. Why? Because if we're putting this in, as you all know, maybe simply by giving us your genotypes, we could predict for you our fatty acid indexes. Why not? The opportunity exists, and I'm again open for all discussions on this. Now, conclusion. I think that it is really important that we notice that implementing genetic evaluation for milk fat decomposition is for us locally a very important thing, because it allows us locally to use these results. We expect results in June 2012. I didn't spoke about all the management aspects, because obviously we are generating a lot of results for the cows, for the herds, and so on, and these results will also be used. So for the moment, we are thinking about doing it starting really in June, presenting the result to farmers, having discussion how to present things outside. So there is still some time before we'll, for example, give you for one of your bulls a value. But anyway, it is not impossible, as I showed you. Then the next step is this idea of using the same strategy for genomic predictions for these novel traits. And I insist here really that the moment you have the spectral data and the moment you have the right prediction equation, you can also use it for novel traits, really different traits from fatty acids. And for example, that's research that's quite ongoing, and the results are really interesting. We are on the process of developing methane emission prediction equations, and these equations go already pretty well. The first paper is in a preview paper in Animal, and we are in the process of adding new data, and we are getting better and better R-square of cross-validations, 0.80 for the moment. Anyway, I think what we can also say, but based on our data, we have already used this prediction equation, and our first results show that genetic variation again is present, and that could be also traits of interest for management and for genetics. Again, opportunity for collaboration. So I'm open for every question now. Thank you very much.